Now during this lunchtime, but we are here at the Common at Parnell, Auckland, New Zealand. Just in case you're outside of New Zealand, hola, hello. So this is the third episode of the Coaches of the Common. My name is Jan Mayer, and I'm just moderating, of course. And the star of the show today, we have the founder of the Common, Debra Chantry, who is back this week, who's going to actually talk to us about when to outsource, or maybe you should keep things in-house. So that's a really big question for a lot of entrepreneurs, and we'll find out more today. Now this series, the Coaches of the Common, is an ongoing series, weekly in fact, wherein we bring in experts in their field, specialists as well, and I think in the future some members as well, to discuss anything and everything on how to manage your business. And this is part, of course, of the Common's offering, as part of the Common community as well. Now let's start. Hi Debra, welcome back.
Morning Jan, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Okay, so outsourcing, that's a big question, and I'm sure you guys have burning questions, so type in your questions in the comments area. So you've spoken to hundreds, maybe even thousands of entrepreneurs, and coached them. Is there like a pattern or a stage in the business that people should start outsourcing?
No, I think it's fair to say that no matter what size business you are and no matter how many staff you have, there are always good reasons when you should actually look at outsourcing as opposed to doing it in-house. And I've come up with 5 good reasons of my own that I believe that you need to be thinking about when you actually outsource as opposed to do it in-house. So what I'll do is I'll take you through those 5 reasons if you like, and feel free to ask me questions. Feel free to come in with questions from the floor as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, no matter if you're a one-man band or I work with companies who've got a couple of hundred staff, there are still always good reasons when sometimes it is worthwhile outsourcing rather than doing it in-house. And I think the first one of those is actually when you're looking for specialist skills and you want to mitigate risk. So for example, if you're looking for legal advice, unless you're a massive big company who can afford to have a lawyer there full time, it makes sense to actually outsource to a lawyer because they have the specialist skills and they'll mitigate that risk for you. And that can apply also within even things like social media. As you well know, we work with Conversology for outsourcing our social media, and you need to understand all the rules and regulations, the new things coming in around, I don't know, I'm a generalist rather than a specialist, but the new rules around cookies and around sharing information and whatnot, I don't know that. The best thing I can do is go and look for somebody outside who's got those specialist skills who can actually mitigate any risk by making sure I do the right things at the right time.
Do you find there are some common skills of entrepreneurs or businesses that they decide to outsource? I think lawyers or legal. How about accounting? Are there any more?
Yeah, I think definitely legal is one of them. Accounting would definitely be another one. I do believe in the specialist marketing areas it makes sense to actually engage people who can help you with that. Anything where there is any kind of risk, I think it makes sense unless you can afford to have somebody full-time to actually outsource that.
Okay, awesome. You said you had 5.
Yeah, I do.
Move on to the second one then. Yes.
So the second one is around opportunity cost. So you've got to think about the value of your time or the value of your staff's time. So if you have got, we have the number 8 why mentality in New Zealand. I can do it myself. It's okay, I can do it. And the reality is you can do anything, right? Most of us can do anything. But what does it actually take you to be doing that, and what's the opportunity cost? So a classic example I use in the everyday world is around cleaning your house. I actually believe every single business owner or entrepreneur should have a cleaner. And the reason that I say that is that because you've got to think about what does it take to clean your house? 3-4 hours in a week? Could you be using that time better? You can pay a cleaner somewhere between $25 and $35 an hour. Could you be using that time better for yourself to be actually creating opportunity or money or things in your business that actually make sense? So for example, as a coach, I can obviously spend time working with my clients, working on stuff for my clients. That's a huge opportunity cost versus doing the house cleaning. Now apply that to business and you might say, okay, well I've got people in the business who can do it, but again, what is their sort of core competency? What else could they be doing with that time? And does it make more sense from a monetary point of view?
No, that actually makes sense, and this reminds me of a story as well, like website development. I don't have, it's related to number 1, which is the skills and stuff, but I'm thinking, well, if I could do this, it takes 4 or 5 hours, maybe 10 hours of my time, even days, but hang on. actually it's even better for my business if I have it outsourced it,
Yeah.
right? And it's even faster.
Yeah,
I
and the
feel like.
reality is we
Yeah.
all kind of go, oh, we can go to Wix, we can go to Squarespace, we can go to WordPress, we can build our own website.
Yeah.
I'm very, very good in the online world, and I have built my own website once, and I thought it would take 2 or 3 hours. It actually took closer to 2 or 3 weeks worth of time after hours in the evening, whenever I had some free time, and I'm quick at it. So you imagine the opportunity cost of that. This time around with the Common, we actually outsourced that website. It was an absolute joy because somebody who knew what they were doing, I briefed them. Briefing is really, really important, make sure they understand what you want, but they developed the whole thing. It cost me, in all honesty, a fraction of what my time would have cost.
There you go.
And it was better looking at the end of it, so it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally. Okay, let's move on to number 3.
Number 3,
Yes.
I think when you hate something, there is nothing worse than doing work that you absolutely hate, right?
I think I've got a long list, I won't tell you.
And I'm being serious. I mean, a lot of us do our own accounts. I hate doing accounts. Why would I do accounts?
Yeah.
Because if you're in that mindset of hating something, then in reality, you're creating that energy of hate in the entire business, and that permeates from the accounts right there through to everything you do. Why would you do that? Let's pay somebody to do it, and that way you haven't got to do the things you hate. You're doing things you love, which are high energy, and that raises the energy throughout the whole business.
Oh, that's awesome. Again, I can relate to all of these, number 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to tell the story. I'm just going to pause a bit. Do we have any questions from the audience around the 3 points, or any general questions at all? Or obviously those who are watching on Instagram, we're live on Instagram as well. Hello, people. Hey, I can't see you saying hi. And of course on Facebook. Yes, do you have a question? Okay.
What are the outsourcing options available?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that can be done offshore these days, and that certainly can be a cost-effective way of doing it. And I think that is definitely an option you should look at. One of the things I would recommend, though, is that you actually still work with a local partner over here who can help with that outsourcing to overseas, because often things get lost in translation, and with the different working hours and things, it can be a great option, definitely cost-effective, but you need to make sure that they're actually on point all the time. So I'm a big advocate for using offshore, but make sure you work with somebody who can actually become the bridge between you and make sure you get the right results. The other thing is you can look obviously locally. There are lots of companies locally who can help you with outsourcing, and they're usually specialists. And again, if you want a specialist, employ a specialist. Don't go for a generalist. So if you're looking for somebody to help you, particularly with your social media, look for a social media company that can actually help you with that. If you're looking for executive assistant work, virtual assistant work, look for a company that specialises in that particular field. So the two options to me are sort of either locally or outsourcing, but overseas, offshore, but do try and work with somebody who can actually help to manage that.
Yep. Again, just to share a little bit as well in terms of outsourcing out of New Zealand, and this is based on, I've talked to some clients as well, or their experiences with other entrepreneurs, is probably could be comprehension, or even sometimes language, or the culture. If it's something, and I don't know if you agree, but there are some things or skills that you can outsource, but not all. What's critical is because they don't really see the culture of the company, and
the different cultural differences as well. I mean, for example, I know for a fact that in many Asian countries, when you go in with an idea and you say, I've got this idea, they will take it as gospel, which means you're just articulating an idea and you're talking it out loud, which we do here in New Zealand. We go to an agency, we've got an idea, we'll have this banter backwards and forwards, we'll finally come up with an idea that is workable and we'll go with it. But in a lot of Asian countries, if you say, I've got this idea, they take it as that's the brief, that's what we'll do, and they'll go away and they'll do that. So it's just knowing those differences, and having somebody who understands those cultural differences will actually help.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So on to number 4.
Number 4. Okay.
Yes,
so the next one is around when it's not your core competency, so either yourself or your team's core competency. Because again, at the end of the day, you can waste a huge amount of time doing things that aren't your core competency, but also your role within a business is to add value to your customers. And where you add value is where you are really good at things. So if you're really, really good at social media, at coaching, at whatever it might be, the best time you can spend is actually adding value in those areas. And anything that's not your core competency, find somebody else to do it. It's all about value.
So that's all about value, definitely, for sure. So, and this is related, or kind of related, but not. How do you feel about the one-stop type of companies that actually offers everything, which they say, well, they don't say it's a core competency. Any thoughts about that? I mean, do you think they're actually outsourcing most of those?
I mean, I worked in agency world a long, long time ago, and I can say I saw that whole cycle of specialist agencies moving to generalist agencies that did everything, and then back to specialist agencies. I can't say that one is better than the other, they're different.
Yep.
The reality is there are definitely agencies who can do everything,
Yep.
and they do have specialist areas within them, and sometimes there's some pros to that because at least they're all working in the same business and same organisation and can share things. But at the same time, I genuinely feel niche agencies have a lot sounder knowledge of the stuff that they're working in. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that's for fact, but it's my personal opinion. They have a better understanding. Bit of the negative will be you have to manage multiple agencies, but as long as you can do that well, then I would recommend going with specialist type agencies.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So it's yes. We have another question from the audience. Yep.
I feel guilty to outsource because I feel that I could be doing that. Do you have a suggestion for me, like for dealing with this guilty feeling?
Yes, absolutely. So what I would do is I was a coach and I was talking with you. What I would actually say is think about all the things and write them down, all the things you're not getting around to doing that you know that you should be doing and that you love doing and that you know that your clients would want you to do. And then think about what the opportunity cost of having the time to do that versus feeling guilty about outsourcing. And let's face it, outsourcing, you're actually providing work for other people as well. So on a positive side, you're actually helping other people with their business so that it's a win-win. You get to have the outsourcing, they get to have the work.
Sounds great. Thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Number 5.
The last one. The last one is around as you're growing a business. Quite often, when you're growing, whether it be from 1 to 2 or 5 to 10 or 10 to 20, you're not quite sure what the next role will actually look like and what return on investment that role will come. Now, I'm a big advocate of employing somebody before you need them, without a doubt, because it's too late. By the time you actually really, really need them, it's way too late. So employ before you need them. But you can also use a contractor or an outsourced company to actually test what that role will be. So you might have an idea in your mind where you say, okay, I think I need someone to do this, that and the other. You can actually outsource it for a period of time, maybe sort of 3 to 6 months, and go, here's what we think we need. And what it then means is that outsourcer or contractor can actually run through that, develop systems and processes. You can find out what works and what doesn't before you actually commit to employing an employee. And the reason I say that is that unfortunately New Zealand law is a very complex one when it comes to employment. I've been working with John Spence from the US, and he always says, if somebody's not working out, just fire them. But you can't do that in New Zealand, it's not the same. So US is a very different way of working. Here, it gives you a chance to see what is possible, what does work, what doesn't work, and before you even bring a person on board, you've got a very clear understanding of what their role will be. And that can save you money in the long run, that can save you legal costs, a whole raft of things. It's a chance to try. So it'll cost a little bit more, without a doubt. Outsourcing can end up costing a little bit more in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to save yourself a huge amount of effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about money, dollars, when it comes to outsourcing. Because again, talking to my fellow entrepreneurs, it's always a case of, the biggest reason I'm going to outsource, for example, especially if it's outside New Zealand, is I don't have the budget.
Yep.
Right? Any thoughts around that?
A couple of things, I think. I mean, the first thing is that, as I said, working with overseas and offshore is not always the cheaper option. Sometimes it can end up, things go backwards and forwards too often, so the time it takes. And I also have a personal experience when I actually, many, many years ago in my marketing agency, where we employed some interns. And my mindset was, I was paying top dollar for my senior marketing contractors. I could get an intern for, but a lot less. And I thought, well, great, we'll get these interns in, they can do this work, cost us a whole lot less. But the reality was they took 4 to 5 times as long to do the work anyway, which meant there was a cost associated with that. And they needed their hand held because they weren't experienced enough. So when you added in the 4 to 5 times the amount of time, plus my time to handhold them, it actually meant that it ended up costing a whole lot more. So you have to keep those sort of things in mind also when outsourcing as well. So it can be overcome. A good brief, a really good understanding of what you want and need and making sure that's briefed in can certainly save you time and money. But I also sort of think that we don't really truly appreciate the cost of an employee. So we go, hey, we can get somebody ourselves to do it, or we can get someone cheaper to do it. You've still got to pay, so for an internal person versus outsourcing, you've still got to pay things like annual leave, you've got to pay sick leave, you've got to pay your KiwiSaver. So there's a whole lot of costs around having that in-house versus outsourcing. So an outsourcing company might charge a little bit more, but they're managing all that financial side, and they're managing the risk as well, because they're actually managing the staff for you. But it is important that you choose the right outsource partner.
Obviously, yeah. Again, it's a combination of all at 5, and I'm sure there's even more.
I'm sure there is too, yeah.
And do we have any questions? I'm just checking in with the time, not so sure if we are still on time.
14 minutes.
Right. Do we have any other questions on online. I'm just checking on Instagram. I do see a heart over there. I need my glasses from this. I don't know, Deborah, if you can see this.
Well, I can see it's a heart too. So
it's a heart. Whoever's giving us the heart,
thank you.
Yep, awesome. Okay, so in terms of, let's see, so outsourcing or in-house. Now we've talked about skills, we've talked about opportunity cost, we've talked about the dollars and budget and what makes sense, etc. Now, do you or have you found anything that actually has frustrated, let's go positive and negative. Any biggest frustrations when an entrepreneur decides to outsource versus yay, it's awesome, it's like the next, there's like the rainbow or the light at the end of the dark tunnel or something, so to speak.
So the biggest frustrations generally come because you haven't set up the relationship right in the first place. So when you work with an outsourcing agency, whether they be locally or overseas, they have to have an understanding of who you are, what your core purpose is, what your why is, all of the things that an employee would need to know. Because at the end of the day, if they don't understand that and they don't understand why you're doing it and what you deliver, then they will go off and they will, deliver something that they believe is right, may not be in line with what you're trying to achieve. So again, getting to know your outsourcing company, treating them just as if they were part of the team, spending time with them to get to know them, and then making sure every time you're working there's a really clear brief. So that's the biggest frustrations, and sometimes time differences. If you are working offshore, it can be a real positive in terms of they can work on things overnight when you're not in the office, but it also means sometimes when you desperately want to get hold of them, they may be in their off time as opposed to your on time. So that's the potential negative.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
See, there will be misunderstandings when it comes to outsourcing and everything.
Yep.
Is it a safe option to say cut your losses and move on? Is it a safe option?
Sometimes it is, in all honesty. I mean, you have to it's like any relationship, any business relationship, you have to look at it and say, okay, have I done everything in my power to make it the best it possibly can be? And if I'm still not getting the results, then it's time to say, okay, actually, this isn't working, we need to call it quits. Yeah.
Cool.
And the positive side was, you said, on the positive side is that, a lot of people have suddenly realised that by outsourcing things, they get all this free time to do the stuff that they love. And stuff that you love and stuff that makes your heart sing, that is the stuff that actually creates a higher energy in your business, and you'll see the entire business flourish. So you get rid of things. I mean, seriously, when I employed a house cleaner many, many years ago, it just completely changed my life. It was just suddenly this ability to not spend every Saturday morning cleaning up the house. I could spend it doing things. I'm not advocating working on your business on the weekend, but what I'm saying is it's that time that suddenly gets freed up. When I've outsourced things like the accounting and whatnot, suddenly you go, oh, thank God, I haven't got to worry about that anymore. And now I can focus on the things that I love and do more of that, and that just creates a better energy all around.
I agree with the accounting, because that's something that I'm not, I love my bookkeeper and accountant right now. So anyway. All right, I think we are done for this week, but thank you again, Deborah, to sharing your knowledge. Again, this is an ongoing series. You can come over at the Common. We actually encourage you to. What's going to happen, we're going to change it a little bit, is that we will pick at least 5 people who would like to actually ask their questions answered, right? So instead of just relying on the virtual audience or the people who are here, come on over, and then we'll pick 5 people. If there's more, then we can bring them in, definitely. So just imagine it as your 15, I'll say maybe even 30 minutes with Deborah or our experts, the coaches of the Common, to get your burning questions answered. I think that's a very, very valuable thing to do. So we're here at Parnell.
And they can stay behind afterwards and actually get to meet the people, sort of ask more questions one-on-one as well. So that's the beauty of it.
And that's the beauty of it, and this unique space is really great. So we encourage you. So we're going to pick 5 people at least. So if you want to be here and ask your questions about the next topic is, apparently we have Katrina North, okay? So a lot of us entrepreneurs go through a lot of stress and overwhelm. So she's going to talk about that and how to manage it through energy healing. So that's really, really interesting next week. So 5 people, guys, come on over if you want your questions to be asked during the session. I suggest type in your comments if you're watching this after.
Yeah.
That would be good. And of course, you can catch us on Instagram Live and Facebook as well.
And if you've not done any energy healing in the past, it's a great opportunity to actually ask those sort of burning questions. You know, what is it? How does it work? Katrina works here with us pretty much full time, and works for both for myself and the team as well as our clients. And I think you'll learn a lot from her about how you can actually overcome that stress and overwhelm. So
Okay.
I thoroughly encourage it. Yeah.
Awesome. Again, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Yep.
And thank you, everyone. All right, see you again next week.